Thank you for joining us this Friday afternoon. Um, our company is revolutionizing the tire recycling industry. And I say our company, many of those on this meeting today are current partners, and I'm honored to be partners together with you on this ambitious and exciting path. And hope to share with you some of the perhaps newcomers to what smart tire recycling is doing. So some of what I'm going to be talking about might be a little bit of a review, but hopefully in the questions and answers, we can dive a little deeper about some updates in the industry. So our company is revolutionizing the tire recycling industry. We've developed a process to deal with the 1 billion tires that are disposed of annually, and we are turning a waste product into a lucrative commodity. Our process takes a scrap tire and fully recovers its most precious component, namely carbon black, a growing $15 billion industry. Our process is backed by a pending patent. Let me tell you a little bit about what currently happens to scrap tires. The majority of scrap tires are either burned as coal or as an equivalent to coal, emitting many harmful emissions, or stockpiled, polluting the earth. About 50% of the scrap tires are burned as fuel, referred to as tire-derived fuel. About 25% is turned into ground rubber, used in playgrounds and other applications. About 20% is still stockpiled or exported, and about 5% is used as siding in civil engineering projects. Now let's talk dollars and cents. 75% of the scrap tire market incurs a revenue of between $1 and $1.80 per tire. There is a 25% of the market that is a higher revenue, used in ground rubber, used in playgrounds and other applications, bringing in about $2.80 per tire, and smart tire recycling can add value to that market as well. But our initial focus will be on the 75% of the market where we can take waste material that has little or no worth and increase its revenue by 2.5 times or more. Now listen to this. Based on our projections, in year 5, we'd have a revenue of $44 million. And that is with just tapping into less than 1% of the scrap tire market. How do we do this? We unbake the tire back into its original components. We use our proprietary green mechanical process to extract materials that can be used to manufacture new tires, thereby creating a true circular economy. Each passenger scrap tire brings in about 1 gallon of oil, 2 pounds of natural gas using our system, 6 pounds of carbon black, which we'll discuss in a minute, and 3 pounds of steel. You take a truck tire, obviously these numbers are much greater. Our most profitable byproduct is carbon black. I know for carbon black for some might be some Chinese word, so I'll illustrate a little bit. Carbon black is a key ingredient in the manufacturing of tires and other rubber products. Carbon black is a growing $15 billion industry. And believe it or not, shortages are expected shortly, very shortly. We would market our recycled carbon black at a significant discount over the virgin carbon black manufacturers. Carbon black manufacturers are from the highest emitters in the world of CO2 emissions, and they are therefore being forced to spend tremendous amounts of money to decrease emissions. Many of the small to medium factories have closed in the last 5 to 10 years. And when we say emissions, I'm here in Pittsburgh, I don't mean some sort of abstract environmental emission. I mean dirty cities. You go outside, your shirt becomes dirty like Pittsburgh was 20 years ago. That's what carbon black cities look like. And therefore, they are being forced to spend tremendous amounts of money to lower their emissions. Our recycled carbon black would be of the same quality, will have 90% fewer emissions, and would be a producer of oil instead of a consumer of oil. Additionally, we would be able to operate strategically and regionally. Now, here's an interesting fact about carbon black. Carbon black is a byproduct of petroleum, and therefore carbon black manufacturers are located near oil refineries in the United States, primarily on the Gulf Coast. With carbon black buyers all in the Rust Belt and in the middle of the country, that adds tremendous transportation costs. Our process of extracting carbon black from scrap tires can be done wherever there are tires, giving us the ability to operate strategically in close proximity to our customers. Now, here's a little short, brief science class. What's pyrolysis? So normally, gases, solids, and liquids do not combine. But when you reach a certain set temperature and pressure, you can create a powerful, clean breakdown that takes place, almost magically forcing those components to combine and break down in a fascinating, almost magical way. Our process is not just pyrolysis, it's pyrolysis on quote unquote steroids, using additional supercritical fluid technology. The company Pyrolysis uses a technology to break down the scrap tire rubber, but they produce a low-grade carbon black. Our recycled carbon black will have 3 times more market penetration. The companies Boulder Industries and Delta Energy use a continuous process to break down the material, producing a uniform high-grade carbon black, similar to ours. But it is estimated that our process will be 50% less expensive to commercialize than Boulder Industries and Delta Energy. Our technology has been proven, and to commercialize this cutting-edge clean technology, we have the perfect team on board. I have 10 years of leadership experience, the majority in the recycling industry. Our CTO, Dr. Schulte, has a PhD in chemistry and years of experience in tire manufacturing, even before she moved to the United States. She then got an MBA from MIT and has decades of experience in business development and management. Our vice president of commercialization, Raymond Reek, has been a pioneer in the pyrolysis industry since people started talking about this stuff close to 20 years ago. Our process and chemical engineer, Clint Edelman, has years of experience taking technologies from the lab scale to the next level. Our test and design engineers, Tom and Ben, have decades of experience building supercritical extraction and test systems. And our sales consultant, Martin Wolfersdorf, is a world expert, probably the world expert in brokering sales of carbon black, with an engineer with decades of experience in the carbon black and recovered carbon black industry. He has introduced us to numerous customers, and we are having high-level conversations with industry leaders together with Martin. In the past couple years, we've raised $350,000 to build a lab scale system and have successfully proven our technology. We recently started a round to scale our system 70x to start making initial sales. And in the past less than 60 days, we've raised over $450,000 towards this new round. Join us in making a dramatic positive change in the world.
Okay. Thank you, Mendel. So we've had some questions coming in. I'll start with Heinz. He asks, the main thing I want to know is when you have a demonstrator, when will you have a demonstrator that actually can process tires and show that the principle works and could work at a large scale?
Thank you, Heinz. So I've kind of gotten out of the prediction business. I've been doing startup stuff for over 5 years now. But what I could tell you is that we have already demonstrated that we have a marketable system. In terms of a manufacturing system, we hope to have that up in less than 12 months and to start sending out commercial samples in the next 9 months. Literally today, I was at the lab and Clint had produced, I'd say, a triple sample test that we're sending to the lab to further and further solidify the product that we have, and our testing results are improving by the day.
Okay, the next question we have, and we'll try to get to as many of these as we can in the time that we have. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. This is from, I believe it's Based. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. What is the go-to-market strategy? What is the fastest way to revenues, and when is that?
So we are exploring a short-term potential partnership with one of the largest. The good news is that there are two companies that actually have plants that are running, and they're making sales, and the technology works, and the business model works, and they're selling everything they're producing. I've spoken with their CEOs in the last couple of weeks, and they are desperate. They're like, Mendel, you have to succeed because we need competition. On the one hand, it is the wild west of opportunity, and the current companies are literally tapping into less than 0.5% of the market in the United States. But the business model is proven. So we think there's a possibility that our system can enhance one of the current biggest players that actually got close to a $300 million investment to scale their technologies, and they think that what we have can add to their yield. So we think in the short term we can possibly license our technology to some of the current systems that are running there to increase their yield. But we plan on having our at least one full factory up and running within the next 24 to 36 months, processing 3 million tires a year with over $7 million of revenue. So I say there's a short-term licensing plan that could bring in some initial revenues beyond the small sales that we're going to be doing with this system that we're building now. But the ultimate goal is to build these machines around the world and bring this technology to the next level.
Thank you. So Sam asks, besides tires, what are some other applications for other parts of the tire, like steel, that you will produce? Will you be selling that in bulk as a wholesaler?
Thank you, Sam. So yes, there are 4 revenue lines that exist in decomposing a tire back to its original components. Oil is a major piece, and we've had conversations with some of the players, and to be able to make the most money out of your oil, partnering with other companies other pyrolysis companies is definitely something that we're exploring to be able to have a larger volume. But in terms of the steel, yeah, the steel's easy as long as you do it right. You run your machines properly, and you take all the rubber out of the steel. That's an easy sell. It's a bit of a higher grade than regular steel. And then there's obviously the carbon black, which has numerous short-term applications even before we can actually perhaps reach the validation of the tire manufacturers. There's paint mixers, there's ink manufacturers, there are applications in batteries and numerous other rubber products, but obviously the biggest buyer is the tire manufacturers.
Thank you. From David, he asks, do you anticipate having regional partners, or do you envision selling systems to as many people as may be interested even multiple customers in a given state or area?
So thank you, David. I just wanted to briefly comment as you bring up the topic of partners. I want to give you a little bit of an industry update, and this is very exciting. And I'm quoting. I've had a lot of conversations with insiders. Everything I'm quoting has been open reporting and business reporting, so this is all completely factual. The industry has literally gone from lukewarm when I joined about 5 years ago, with people saying that the future of tire recycling is pyrolysis, et cetera, but it's not going to happen soon. The technology is so complex, et cetera. And there's been some early major investors, maybe in 2015, Bridgestone invested in Delta Energy. What I'm going to read to you now is literally from the last 6 months. The investments in these types of technologies have gone literally through the roof. In November of 2019, Continental Tires invested in Pyrolysis significantly, tens of millions of dollars. In April of 2020, Michelin invested in a small Scandinavian company, also an undisclosed large investment. In September of 2020, a chemical manufacturer called BSAT out of Germany invested $17 million in a company called Pyrum, a small German company doing tire pyrolysis. And here's the kicker. And this I heard before this became public. October 27th, I spoke about a week before that with the CEO of Boulder Industries. They are they're the biggest player, and our vice president of commercialization built their machine that they're using now. In October 27th, they had a over $300 million investment by GIG Capital 2, and it's listed as close to an $800 million deal over the next 10 years, maybe the next 10 to 15 years. But the investments that are taking place in this technology have gone from lukewarm to, I want to say, hot, and it's becoming boiling literally as we speak. What you'll notice that Goodyear and Cooper have not yet invested, but we see all the chemical manufacturers, carbon black manufacturers, tire manufacturers, each being strongly interested in one of these individual technologies, locally and globally, and people I've heard kind of secondhand for people that have spoken with the CEOs of the tire manufacturers, and they are making extremely aggressive goals to have their ingredients of their tires and chemicals come from renewable products. Some companies are going up to 50%. Others are already saying 100% of their tire. Their goal is that it should be made from renewable products. So the short answer is yes. There are many partners, and we envision the excitement in the large investment community to continue growing.
So a few people have asked, just as a technical note, yes, this presentation was recorded, and we will be sending this along, and you can feel free to share this with your friends. Question here from Yossi: when the technology is developed at scale, what prevents another company from modifying your approach and beating you to market?
Thank you, Yossi. So we see actually our advantage as being very interesting, even though there are a number of other players. And to kind of back up just a little bit, the tire pyrolysis technology, I'd say, has gone through 3 generations to date. The early tire pyrolysis technology is essentially defunct. They had because pyrolysis is something which is used. You turn caffeinated coffee into decaffeinated coffee using pyrolysis. So it's somewhat standard technology, obviously extremely specialized, and most engineers are clueless when it comes to it. But relatively speaking, that's been done. And my co-founder who had passed away about 6 months ago. He's been in the pyrolysis industry for decades, mainly in the heavy oils. So the first generation of tire pyrolysis took tires and they burnt them almost, and you ended up with some low-grade oil. and a pile of char that you had to pay to get rid of, kind of burnt carbon. The next generation was batch process technology, which worked, and you were able to sell the material, but it was low grade. It wasn't uniform. The company Pyrolysis, this is not yet public knowledge, but they use batch technology, and you'll hear in the news in the next couple weeks they're going bankrupt, because it's not a sustainable business model for numerous reasons, because you really can't sell all your carbon black for the highest level on the oils of a lower grade, and you have to have significantly more employees to run a batch factory with 50 different machines. So the current, the holy grail of tire recycling is where we are, which is the continuous process. And there is room for lots of growth in R&D. And at this point, I spoke with people that are kind of part of these larger companies, and they say that the level of expertise in engineering and chemistry that we have goes much deeper than many of these other companies. We actually created our own technology. These other companies purchased technology and kind of tweaked it a little bit, but they're focused mainly on the business model. The potential to further create better yield, better production, better end product, better purification. We want to be heavily invested in continued R&D to perfect this technology, to take it to the next level. We're looking at very interesting applications of oil, interesting applications of carbon black that can be to take the carbon black from 30, 40 cents a pound to 10x of that, used in pharmaceutical applications for activated carbon black and other interesting applications. So we want to take that advantage that we have, where we kind of created our own technology from scratch, and be able to be, in addition to building factories, we want to be a technology provider.
Okay, we're getting a lot more questions coming in. If we can't get to all of the questions on this call, please feel free to include them in the chat, and we will try to reach out to people directly to respond to your questions. So a question here from Ted. Understanding that your solution is different from the competitors, how do you know that you will be able to go from the lab to commercial scale successfully?
Thank you, Ted. I think that where we have an advantage is where we think that we can do things better, but the basic concept is very similar. Meaning the heart of pyrolysis is something where we're not significantly different. We're able to do the breakdown quicker. We're able to do the breakdown with more efficiency. We're able to do the breakdown cleaner, and there's various stages. So certain aspects are very similar in terms of the heart of the breakdown.
Okay.
And I think that, the part of where many of these companies have gone wrong is that they all tried to, let us say, completely become their own new technology. Sometimes when you have engineers, they like their ideas and they're very focused. But an advantage that we have is because we started kind of on the ground level. We brought in people that had a lot of deep experience from many mistakes that have been made. For example, a simple mistake is if you get the wrong type of investors, and your investors aren't patient enough and they want to return in 18 months, and then will realize that the timeline is a little longer, that can be a problem. So for example, Raymond Reek, who built the machine that Boulder Industries has, the reason why he didn't end up turning his machine into a business and someone had to buy it from him was because he built his machine with loans, and they defaulted on their loans because they needed an extra 6 months of runway time. So kind of using other types of investors that understand the technology timeline better than just a traditional loan, simple things like that can make a huge difference. Pyrolysis right now is going under because of the batch technology versus the continuous technology. So using a lot of what's already been figured out is going to make it a lot easier for us to make less mistakes. But yeah, there are risks, and there's lots of unpredictability, and we've seen a lot of that over the last 5 years, and I'm sure we'll see more, but I think putting together a team of people that want to bring together the best ideas of what's worked and what hasn't worked will give us an edge.
Okay. I think we're close to out of time. Again, we will try to get back to everyone who are leaving questions in the chat. I want to thank everyone for participating, taking the time today. Certainly want to thank you, Mendel. And I just want to remind everyone that there are only 2 weeks left to participate in the WeFunder campaign, which closes on the 21st. We're actually very close to hitting our milestone of $500,000. At that point, the valuation does go up. So please make sure to visit www.wefunder.com/STR to participate in this round. If you have additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to Mendel. His email address is Mendel, MENDEL, @smarttirerecycling.com. Okay, that's all
Thank you
for
very
us.
much.
Thank you, Mendel. Thank you, Morris.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.